Hey everybody, thank you for clicking this episode of the Pickin Parlor. Mike Gentry was a great guy to sit down and talk to. Very insightful, had lots of fun stories. I wish we could have got to more of those. About 20 minutes in, my main recording interface died. Thankfully, I had a backup running, so you shouldn't notice too much of a change in audio, but if you do, it happened. I'm sorry. It's a low-budget operation I run here. Be sure to like Mike Gentry's Facebook page called Mike Gentry Music. While you're at it, go ahead and give the Pickin Parlor a like, and why don't you give Bert Franco Music a like as well? So without further ado, I give you the Pickin Parlor, Episode 2, Mike Gentry.
Piece of chalk and outline it.
It's like Anthony's little project he's got going on there.
Oh.
I hope you don't mind the cameras.
No, I don't know what's going on. So what are you doing? What is this?
This is part of my, I'm making the move to become what's called a content creator.
Oh, uh-huh.
And
so somebody that doesn't make any money
fills
up the content holder that somebody makes a ton of money with.
Yeah, no, it seems to be that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I always tell my friends that are like in brewing and whatnot. I say, what you really should be making is beer bottles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Because they always need beer bottles.
Right, exactly. That's all you need is bottles.
This is a move I've been making I've been trying to make since September.
Uh-huh.
I've been trying to make the move to have a better online presence. And as long as that's pointed at you, I'm happy.
Yeah. It looks like it's got.
And there's a lot of content creators out there that are making a living at it in some way.
Uh-huh.
And it's not so much the money, because there's none in it right now for me. It's more of like, what's the next step as a musician and as a creative person.
Uh-huh.
And the internet now has given us so many outlets, and I would just be a fool not to take advantage of them. Even if I am just copying some other people that I've seen at first, it's no different than the reason why I picked up a guitar.
Right. Right.
So I'm trying it.
So I saw your the thing about your struggles with 16 by 9 and 4 by 3.
Yeah. I found the
trying to put two together.
I found the set to frame key on Premiere, and it made my life so much easier. I don't know why that was such a big discovery, but it was like 8 hours, and then YouTube fixed it for me. They just had a little thing that says, "You want us to fix the cropping on it?" I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, really? And it worked?
Yeah, because they used to have this old thing called YT. YT:crops 69 or whatever, and it would just fix the video for you, and they stopped it. But now if you type it in, they just give you the option. So, of course I freaked out for about 8 hours, and this is a learning curve. I'm learning how
it's a massive learning curve.
I'm learning how YouTube works. I'm learning a lot about, of course, too. Like a couple months ago, right when I started uploading videos again and taking YouTube seriously, they changed the for the better. They changed their policies in terms of when you can monetize, and how AdSense works. You have to have like 1,000 subscribers or something like that, or like 100 or something like that, and you have to have like 1,000 hours of viewing time. Like people have to watch it for that long. And,
wow, really?
Yeah, and of course, like they changed it, and it's for the better. YouTube's always trying to become better. There's nothing vindictive about it.
Right.
But of course, they took that away. Because originally, you could start a channel up, from what I gather, and then just like right away after 30 days or something like that, just start putting ads on the thing and collecting cents on the dollar, because you're not getting a lot for ads.
Right.
Even like the millions of clicks. But again, that's all pipe dream. That's not the real reason why I'm getting to it. It's more just getting to, expressing more of my creative side in a different way. So
that's cool. And so
I urge all my musician friends to do it, because it'd be foolish not to. Like, this is the future. We're in it now.
It kind of is, isn't it?
And you got to ride the wave.
YouTube is kind of like radio used to be, right?
And it's going to be around for a little while longer. I know people are talking like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Well, right now we have this thing. All this thing will do is prepare you for the next thing. So.
Right, and the content, if there's another thing, it's still going to be video. And the content is still going to go across from one platform to another.
What's weird is the videos, like the likes on YouTube versus the likes on Facebook, or the views. Because Facebook, it automatically plays stuff, and people use that more. Right. I noticed that when the last couple of videos I've done, I've uploaded to YouTube and linked them to Facebook. It takes you to a separate player. Right. So it takes you in the Facebook app to a separate player. So people oftentimes don't like clicking on it. Whereas if you directly download or directly upload it to Facebook,
it'll play right in.
Yeah, but there's no way of monetizing on Facebook. So I'll be starting a Patreon once I get get a few more videos under my belt and get a feel for how to keep
That's
this pace
cool
going.
that you're like that you're exploring all of these new.
I have to.
You're like an early early adopter and stuff.
I'm following in the footsteps of a handful of my favorite YouTubers. Let's put it that way.
Oh, really?
They do all that, and I even support a few of them on Patreon and stuff like that. So
that's really cool.
I don't see why people aren't doing it more.
Well, it's probably because there's just so many hours in the day to do what it is that you do, anyways.
Yep.
And if you're not naturally adept at technology.
Yeah.
Or that if you have any, I'm just not good with computers.
Oh yeah, the self-doubt thing.
Oh yeah, you're right. Well, the self-doubt thing is the limiting factor in all of life.
I was just talking to my dad yesterday. Because he was telling me about the video thing. He brought the same thing because I posted that thing online. I learned a lot about the aspect ratios, and I was like, "Man, Dad, I wish I would have studied this stuff in school." And he goes, "You still can." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess there's nothing stopping me from going back to like taking a community college course on video editing." Right. I thought, well, that was really dumb that I was mad about that.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah.
And like I could have predicted that video editing would have been something that I wanted to do back then. Even then, so maybe one of these days I'll do that.
Well, have you always been interested in, what is it? I mean, that you're...
I'm interested in attention.
Right?
I'm a middle child.
Oh, really?
So for me, like, probably part of this is natural, like playing the guitar and then singing in front of as many people as I can. And then getting their attention and keeping their attention. I follow the likes. I like the views on Facebook and YouTube. So I think part of it's that. So how can I manifest this in the least douchiest way possible?
Well, and how do you determine? I mean, is success? Is that determined by how many people are?
Oh yeah, good question.
Watching it or liking it?
I don't think it is. I think it's just for me. It's the endorphin release. Oh, such and such liked it. Such and such liked it.
Right. So
it's stuff like that. But on top of that too, I do get a sense of completion when I've got something I'm really proud of.
Right. So
even if it's not that
so
great,
you're satisfied by just the creative process.
Like I've got a pretty nice. I say nice. It works for me. An at-home recording setup. I love it.
What is it?
I use Studio One. I've got I got this blue microphone that's in front of you now. I've got all sorts of direct-in guitar interfaces and stuff like that. And I'm so rewarded by just spitting out something that I can think of,
Right.
Even if it doesn't turn out that great. Because I'm not great at mixing. I've only got like headphones and like a Bluetooth speaker, and that's all I mix on. It sounds terrible even on that. But like I'll send out stuff to get mix and master. Like Dave Roof will mix and master stuff for me from time to time. There's a studio down in Akron called STA level. I'm sure Jeff is going to watch this video. Sorry, bud.
Well, there was a compressor, the famous one, the Gates, and a stay level.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's okay. I could have asked him when I talked to Jeff the other day.
Level.
Oh yeah. I could have talked to him.
I think that's
that makes sense.
I think that's what it is. I mean, that's what I've heard people call it. But I mean,
I'll pick his brain next time I talk to him because I've got more work I'm going to send to him. I think too. So,
and so, what's this?
This mess.
This system right now. What is this?
This is part of what's called the Pickin Parlor podcast, which is another idea. Again, do you ever study? Do you know John Lawrence? Do you ever go to Washington Community College?
I did go to Washington Community College, and I know him. But I don't know him well. Was
Morris Lawrence in charge when you were there?
He, when I went there late.
Okay.
Because I went and did the, Hollywood, GIT 80s.
Oh, really?
Rock and roll thing,
Well, I'll have to ask you about that.
Yeah, I went there in '86. I ended up staying there for 8 years.
I was born in '86.
Oh yeah. That's when I moved to Hollywood.
Wow,
I was 23.
Right. Yeah.
And Paul Gilbert was my single string teacher and stuff, and we were closet Kiss fans and stuff, and so that was kind of that thing for me. And you were born in the 80s.
Yeah, December, almost 87.
Oh yeah, so you missed out on that whole
Oh yeah, I did.
shred or die era.
I get to look back on it, and with hindsight, you know.
Probably actually kind of lucky.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I consider my position in history pretty lucky, because I do get to look back with retrospect, and I get to see the catalog as a whole, which is amazing.
Yeah, it must be weird.
Because I remember getting records, you know, like 99, 2000, and not knowing anything other than what's in the cover, not knowing which one came first or which one came second.
Right.
And, you start thinking in your head, how does this work? Stuff
I'm
like
a
that.
pre-Van Halen player.
Oh, wow. That's a big deal.
Yeah, so I started playing, and then that first Van Halen record came out, and it separated,
Oh, yeah.
it changed stuff. All the neighborhood older dudes with mustaches and bell bottoms and stuff. They're like, wow, man, they didn't even know what it was. I remember taking the Van Halen album to school to my band teacher, Mr. Woolfolk at Dexter, and saying, you got to listen to this. And he was like, eruption. He was like, what is that? And I said, it's a guitar. And he said, that has to be like some kind of, recording trick or something. I said, I don't think so, man.
I don't think so.
I think he's playing it. And that really was like a watershed sort of for guitar players,
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole other thing happened. And people were like, trying to figure out what he was doing, and that whole dexterity thing happened, and I think that's really responsible in a lot of ways for like 80s rock.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I've got a picture of me real young. My parents gave me their record collection, which was only like 8 records at the time. One of them was Van Halen. I got a picture of me with this Hawaiian shirt holding it up, and I was just at my dad's place, and he's got it hanging up. I thought that picture didn't exist anymore. I thought we lost it, And he goes, "Oh no, we're gonna digitize it." I'm like, "Good, maybe I'll stick it in this thing so we have it."
Yeah.
But it's just me holding up this. I don't even know how a record loads. I still never really loaded a record before.
Really?
I've had them, and I had a DJ turntable, which doesn't have as many functions. You just drop the thing and it spins.
That's all you do.
But some of them have this lock mechanism and stuff like that.
They're pretty simple. I mean, that's all you do. You just set the needle in the groove and turn up the volume until your parents complain, and then you got it.
Okay, when I get enough space on my own, I think I'm going to invest in the vinyl and see what happens.
You have to have So, you asked me to do this, and I'm still a little bit mystified as to why you and
why I chose you.
Yeah,
I see you online a lot.
Right.
Because I don't really know you. I don't really know you.
I know. I mean, I saw you the one time when I was in here.
I think I may have met you maybe once or twice.
And you were in between lessons.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, I see you online, and I see you have really wholesome posts, and I like what you have to say. And well, the thing was, I see your recording with Dave Roof.
Yes.
And I saw Don Dennison in the same room with you, and I thought, man, that's got to be awesome.
And you and he played on your stuff.
And he does. He still does.
Killed it.
Oh, he still does. Yeah, always does.
Right.
He sends me back. I'll send him just garbage, like just like off the top of my head, these chord progressions and these half-written lyrics, and I'll just copy and paste stuff over, and I'll put a bass line together, and it'll be over the course of 3 days. So my guitar settings have changed halfway through, and I'll normalize the audio, and it sounds terrible. It won't have an ending, and I'll send it to Don, and 3 or 4 days later, he sends back these perfect captures. And he'll have rewritten an ending if he needs to. He's done that for me now twice.
Yeah, because he can play like a bunch of stuff.
But even just on drums, he'll just play the ending on. I mean, I played bass with him for years. So I part of my meter is built into him.
Oh, right.
Like, and I say that because like I've got a really poor meter, but when I play with Don, he's something about his playing just ignites me and gets me working with him so well because he's such a force. And so when I hear him play an accent differently or essentially write an ending, it makes sense to me,
Right.
So it's really cool that he's imprinted that on me. And
so seeing that picture, you were like, oh yeah, I need to talk to that guy.
He's like, yeah, this has to be awesome.
Yeah, I've known him for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Because he was like the drum guy at Nalli music.
I know that he's told me stories about it, but they all seem really amazing, and I believe him. But it's like he's got so many characters in these stories.
Oh,
it's hard to follow.
It's all true.
I believe it.
I mean, he was the guy. What's cool is that the drummers that I've played with over the years, when they saw it on Facebook, they were like, Don, because they bought all of their stuff from him back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody did. Everybody knew who he was because he was the guy at Nalli.
So
that's where everybody went.
What was Al Nalli's? It was a music store, but was there also a recording or a publishing portion of that thing too, or is that a different store altogether?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's still together, but Blackfoot, they
Train, right?
Yeah, they were a Nalli thing, and there was a studio in the basement.
Okay.
And I don't know a whole lot about that part of it. The people that were involved in that were a good bit older than I was, because I was just 17, 18 years old.
Okay. What year was that?
That when I was first going in there, when they first moved into that store right by the Fleetwood Diner there on Ashley. That was in the late 70s.
Okay.
And, the times were good then. I mean, I bought, a 63 white SG Junior there for $225.
Had the P90 pickups in it? Or?
Yeah, just one.
Just one?
And it was killer.
Rock and roll machine.
Oh, yeah, I bought that and 60s single pickup, Sunburst, Melody Maker, the same day, and paid $400 for the pair of them.
Nice. Was a single pickup on the Melody Maker too?
Yeah, that one, just with no pole pieces and just the little skinny one that everybody hates.
Yeah.
But now everybody likes. Mm-hmm. Just like everything else.
We had one stolen from here.
One of those?
I think I only had one pickup in it. Yeah, at least last I heard. I haven't worked here since November, so or October actually. My last day was September.
Right. So you said that you always saw the posts on Facebook and they're wholesome.
Yeah. and I like the things I like what you have to say, because you're always you're out and about and you're doing stuff. I've got a lot of musician friends who are quite frankly just full of shit.
Really?
It's every post is great things happening next week and nothing happens next week. Right. And it's just like big things in the horizon and there's no big things in the horizon and stuff like that. But
I think Bert, the thing that they realize is that you think about the history of like Michigan music and even southeastern Michigan music.
Yeah.
And you think of all the thousands and thousands and thousands of great songwriters, great guitar players, great musicians, great singers. I mean, this area has some incredible talent. And how many people actually break through to be, the person that ends up on one of those Time Life music kind of collections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That goes out and has a real music career. And it's maybe, a dozen people,
It's like winning the lottery.
Or when you go out on a Saturday, you're right, it's like winning the lottery. You go on a Saturday afternoon to any local school district and you see the kids playing Little League or, whatever league baseball.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids playing baseball. And they're all like, man, I'm going to get on the Tigers. And they've been thinking I'm going to play on the Tigers since the 50s. And I went to school in Dexter, and there's been thousands and thousands of kids playing those diamonds every weekend for 50 years. And not one of them has ever been on the Tigers or ever made the majors from Dexter, ever. And music's the same way. And the thing with music is there's no shortage. It's not like, oh man, we really are hurting for music these days. I wish someone would come along and play a song. It's like, 50 people show up for pizza.
Yeah.
And it's the sad thing is that you don't even have to pay people anymore. And even if you wanted to, you just. I always make a joke about that. The vinyl and all the musician friends. They're like, oh, vinyl's going to save the music industry because, it's a physical thing and everybody wants it and you can't download it. But, I mean, with the 3D printer, right?
How about that?
It's going to be print your own record kit, and it'll be the 3D printer, and they'll have this special formulation, and then there'll be a bunch of, cork sniffers that are like, oh, I get my vinyl print toner from, so-and-so, and it'll be some boutique-y shit.
I never thought about that.
And so people just print their own, and then everybody will be screwed all over again.
Was it Neil Young had the device and the website, he had like a Zune, like an iPod, but for audio files that played like uncompressed files.
Yeah, the Pono.
That probably had to be massive, like with the storage capacity.
It was the triangular thing.
Something like that. I think it was. Yeah. He's a weird dude.
Yeah. It didn't work.
And like you said, like it is a lottery, and people don't make it the way that they used to. And I'm not even sure people have made it the way that they used to since. I don't know. I mean,
it's been a few years.
But that's the whole thing. Like again, with this moving into content creation thing, and sort of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks between a podcast and, right now my plan is to do an original song, a gig vlog, a podcast like what we're doing now, and then a lesson or some sort of observation of music that I have. And I've got ideas, and stuff like that, and I got stuff in the works, and I'll see if I can stick to that schedule over and over again for the rest of the year. Is my plan.
That's fantastic. Well, the thing that's cool about it is that if you have kind of like a variety to it, and you're approaching it from a whole bunch of different angles like that, you probably get a larger audience, and especially if you have lessons.
Oh yeah.
And like that stuff that you were just playing out there, that's super cool, like stuff.
The Chet Atkins stuff.
Yeah.
I got a video surrounded that stuff coming up soon too.
The problem that I have with a lot of people that are doing that stuff online and giving lessons with it is that they try to show too much of it instead of, and they'll show you a whole bunch of licks and it'll be this long thing, when really what I would like to see, and this is what I think is missing, is say if you had just a simple chord progression like G, C, and D that everybody knows and everybody can do, and over the course of several lessons, you expand on what you can do from just your straight, and but to have this, because somebody might not play guitar, and like you, but they need to get to a certain level to be able to be turned on to your thing.
It could work.
But if you have something that's all the way from the beginning, from somebody that just bought their Esteban guitar, and they lost their Keith Urban DVDs, and they come and they, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So then you add on to it until you're doing what Chet Atkins would do to a G, C, and a D chord, so that people could see what the logic is in learning these basic baby steps along the way, rather than already have to have 2 years of guitar hands.
I know, right?
To handle what they're doing. And most people assume that you already are at a certain level, and there's not a lot of people that are in between that beginner and that, that's over my head.
Yep.
What you need is the pool that gradually gets deeper. Not like wading pool and then the ocean.
Yeah. That's part of the thing too, is when I'm talking to I'm talking in front of the camera to myself, I just go a million miles a minute, and I just edit stuff out, and I realize I forgot about talking about this and talking about that and talking about this and talking about that. So part of this whole thing is even helping me become a better explainer. And the thing is, I taught lessons here for 11 years and something like that, and
this is your home.
This was this room. Of course, there's a lot more posters, and there was no piano sitting over here, So, and what was great is when YouTube really became so much more popular, it made my job so much easier, because there were already people online that took the time to learn these really difficult pieces that were spitting them out, and edited, controlled context to students, and all they needed out of me was, is this, what technique here? Am I holding my pick right? What's the next thing I should do after this? You got to become more of a coach, which is really where I shined, because the thing is that with all this technology, you got to take advantage of it. It's like sink or swim, or if you're the thing is, there's lots of people that make their living and are happy with their art the way it was 20, 30 years ago, and they're doing it now. That's their enrichment, and I'm not trashing that. I just always need to go further.
I feel like that myself sometimes. What would I do if somebody actually liked a song and wanted it to be on something, and how does that all how does it all work? And I tell people still now that at this point I still have not tried to get a gig yet.
Really?
No, they just come.
There is a certain point where that happens. Of course, now I'm far away, so they don't happen so much anymore.
But they just come. Like I started playing you know, just solo acoustic because I always thought that I would when I was, you know, had kids in my early 30s, and I thought that when I, you know, was done with that, I'd go back and play music live. But, you know, stuff happens, and you just feel different when you're getting out of bed in the morning. And the stuff that you thought you were going to do when you're 32, when you're 52, you're like, I don't feel like doing that right now. And so I got a smartphone, like right about the same time. And what I sort of did, should I talk about this? Or
you can talk about anything you want. This is our time. So
okay, so here's what I did. And looking back at it now, I can see that it was smart, but at the time, I was doing it for, you know, different reasons. But so I started going out and playing, and I was like, okay, and I didn't know all the people that I know now, and I've met some just incredible, amazing people in just the last 3 years, just unbelievable. And so I took a little notebook with me, and I would write down, you know, oh, this person, and they played like a blue, you know, Ibanez acoustic, and they played these songs, and write down their name, and I'd write the songs that they played, and what I thought about them, you know, technically and artistically and visually, and made some notes so that if I saw them again, I would remember their name. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to, okay, I've got to learn who the people are and what they're doing. And so then I started to think, well, you know, there was Facebook, and I'd been on Facebook for 6 years, but never posted a thing ever. I'd never posted a thing. Because my wife's like, well, you're going to need to be on Facebook. Just like she was like, well, you're going to need a cell phone. I'm like, no, I don't. So then she eventually, right about the same time, well, you need to get a smartphone if you're going to do this. And I was like, well, no, I don't. Yes, you do. So I got a smartphone. She, you know, made us go, and we did the thing. And so I went. And so I was like, well, I'll just take pictures of the people too. And so then I started to figure out when people looked the best when they were playing, which is usually when they're talking in between songs. And I would like watch them, and like I'd go, oh, when they're singing the chorus, they really go back and they're really getting into it. So I'd go, okay, cool. So I'd wait for the chorus again, and I would go musically with them. And then people usually look really great too when they're just the last chord is ringing out and they hear the first bit of applause.
A little smile.
That they're done. And that they're hearing, you know, that they're getting that feedback from people. And so they look, you know, they have that look like when they were a kid. And so I would ask the people that were playing, and I just went to open mics, and I would, you know, say, hey, are you on Facebook? And they would be, yeah. And I say, well, is it cool if I friend request you? And they would say, okay, that's cool. So I'd get home that night, and I would friend request all those people that were at these open mics. And they would say, oh, yeah, that's that guy that was, you know, at Plymouth or wherever, some fish fry in a basement of a church somewhere or whatever. And so then I would wake up in the morning, and there'd be 10 people that were, you know, they're my friends now. And so then I would post the review of everybody that played and post a picture of them.
Yeah.
That was like a good one. Some people just take a picture and
call good,
like that, and they're not going to be happy with that one, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I'd pick the ones that looked good of them and put them out there. And I was going to like 4 or 5 open mics a week.
Jeez.
And I was just relentless. I just went to tons of them. And pretty soon I ended up hosting an open mic. And then I ended up hosting another open mic. And people were like, hey, so-and-so's playing. Do you want to open for that person? And then just really, really cool. I started getting really cool, like, fill-in openings, and then it would be like somebody that's like some unbelievable national person.
Yep.
You know, like Ian Fitzgerald, this guy that's from Rhode Island, who's just, he's better than everybody.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you don't know who Ian Fitzgerald is.
I'll check it out.
He's like this anachronistic dude from another planet with lyrics that are just, he's just better than everyone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then that happened, and I met people, and I ended up recording people. Like I recorded Ed Scruggs.
Oh, Ed, is this like do you have a studio?
No, I went to his house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Ed was difficult to record because he he just had this leather couch, which was squeaky. And so he had his leather couch, and he didn't want to sit up or nothing. He just wanted to sit back on his leather couch, and there was a dog running around, and play his guitar and sing his songs. And so I had to mic him where he was, kind of. And so he just did his thing, and I came back over the course of a couple of days, and he was great. I love Ed. He's one of my very favorites. And I recorded Mike Vile.
Mike Vile.
And he is just a fantastic songwriter, guitar player, just person. Just a really super great guy. And I was just watching what he was doing, and we went out to someplace, the Acorn Theater, and played out on the west side of the state. And we were talking, and I just had this idea that, I bet you I could. He wanted to do one, straight through, no fixes, no anything, no overdubs takes. So I was thinking, I bet you I could do that. I bet you I could record that record. And so I said, I bet you I could record that. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. So one thing led to another. Then, a couple months later, we were in a cabin up in Indian River or something like that, up north for 3 days. And we did 150 takes through songs, and he just killed it.
Wow. And
it's a great record. And and then that sort of, and so the combination of like these open mics and recording people and then getting these gigs and all this stuff just sort of, I think the whole thing is trying to help people do music, to encourage them. It's like you do when you're teaching, like what you're saying, when you're a coach, you're trying to encourage people and make them feel good about themselves and about playing music and what they're doing.
It's a great way to grow the community too, and the network.
And it's just, I think it's just, I guess that's the natural outgrowth of it. But the cool thing about it is like when I was taking the pictures of people at open mics and posting them and saying good things about them, a lot of people in their personal life, because music, when you're woodshedding and you're just going through your stuff and playing your songs and learning how to play guitar and stuff, it takes a lot of hours. And if you're in a relationship with somebody, or if you have a family or something like that, they can kind of be giving you the, let's go do something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, well, I am doing something. I am.
I'm building towards something.
This is doing something. And they're hearing, you know what I mean? And they're like, they don't want to hear this anymore.
But you have to do it.
And you have to do it, and you have to pour your million hours into it. And so it's hard sometimes to justify, especially when you're not making all kinds of money and you're not getting rich and you're not getting famous. And a lot of people aren't even tangibly pursuing a career in music.
Yeah.
Their significant others aren't like, well, how come you're not out there making flyers and, going and doing the whole thing and got a street team and getting a t-shirt and a bumper sticker and a pin and a pic with your name on it and all that kind of stuff and a website and la 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 la. And they just love to play music because music is awesome and it's the best thing. And so what I noticed that when you post a picture of somebody on Facebook and they look great, and they're doing their thing, and they're on a post with 8 or 10 other people that all look great, and they're all playing music and they're all happy, and somebody is saying something great about them online, that it makes it easier for them in their personal life to have that time. And maybe it gives them some measure of support from their other family members or the people in their immediate family.
It's not a bad way to look at it.
That it's just, if they think that what you're doing is important and that other people are enjoying it, you're more likely to get the support of those people. And
it's a good way to look at it.
my wife and I, we talk about this a lot, and because she knew what I was when she found me,
Right.
and it can either be or appear to be at times a very selfish activity,
Right.
Because
Totally.
it is something that
Yep.
I can't tell you why I got into it.
Right.
The old adage, what made you want to be a musician?
Right.
I don't think I had a choice.
Right. Yeah, right.
The army wasn't going to take me. And so it can appear to be that way because
Right.
it is such an internal thing, and it's something you only really do for yourself.
Right.
At least that's my perspective on it. I'm not going to speak for everybody.
Right.
I know a lot of people pick up an instrument with pipe dreams.
Right. Right.
And of course too, I remember being a kid thinking like, what's going to be my backstage list?
Oh, yeah,
What
right.
kind of demands am I going to make?
You make primitive drawings of like the
stage
looks
plots
like.
and my guitar, my own custom guitar.
Exactly.
When Fender comes knocking, they want me to play their guitar.
Right.
They're gonna change something.
Right, right.
And, the whole, I went through the whole thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I had
That's awesome.
I had a real big dose of reality my first year at Washtenaw, when I sat in a music theory class, and I known how to read music my whole life. My first instrument was accordion. After that, I had to play a little bit of piano.
Oh, so you knew how music went.
Yeah, and I had
what
to
it did.
had to stand over my dad's shoulder while he played the piano, and I played the lines with him and stuff like that.
Right.
I had to. So I had a pretty good grasp of the basics of it walking in. But it was the first teacher when it was Dr. Naylor, and he landed us all up and he asked, "What are your goals? What are your goals? What are your goals?" And I remember telling him, like, I want to make my living playing music, and he told me I would never make a living playing music, and I was so mad. I remember I finished the class. I got like a B or something in the class. And years go by. I've got a job now. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. I'm playing bass with Billy Mack and the Juke Joint Johnnies.
Right.
They're playing every weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm teaching on top of the whole thing. I remember I started into the class to finish music theory 2, my chest all out and everything. Like I'm all hot shit. And at that point, he called on me and said, "What are your goals?" And all the anger that I held flooded. And I realized that was exactly what I needed to hear. Because I was some stoner kid. I was late to class all the time. And after he told me that, it seriously straightened me up. I was just like, no, I'm going to do this. Who's this guy to tell me I can't do this?
Right.
And he was the guy other than that, I had family and friends tell me, "Oh, you're great. You're going to do great. You're going to do this whole thing." First guy said, "No, you're not going to do great. you can't even show up to class on time, That whole thing. I needed that. And ever since then, I realized, like, all that spite and all that stuff just left my body, and music stopped becoming a competition. Because up until that point, for me, it's always a competition. I always want to be better than the next guy.
Right?
No, I just have to be good, and I have to be good and true to myself.
Right.
And I'll find it from there.
So how old are you now?
I'm 31.
Oh man.
Yeah. I'm just as clueless as I was at 21.
No, it's a great age to be. It's got a perfect age to be like where you're at and what you're doing and how this is going. You from 30 to 40, and you have you're just a great guitar player. With a way that you play. You have a thing that you do, which I think is important. I think every great musician has a thing that they do. Mm-hmm. The ones that do a whole bunch of stuff that are all over the place, there's great people that can play a whole bunch out of different bags, but they're usually like studio guys that you end up never hearing about, and they actually make a living.
I call them nexus points or was it melting pots? People that can grab so much from everywhere.
That can play everything.
We just talked about Chris Costello. He's that guy. I've seen him play Chet Atkins licks, and I see him play like heavy metal licks because that's all the kids in Ann Arbor wanted to play when he was teaching at Herb David.
Yeah.
That's the
same with like Brian Delaney. I don't know if you know him.
I know him by proxy. I know him through working with Don Dennison. He gave me a record, Kiss Me Screaming, which is one of my favorite things to listen to.
Yeah, because him and I, we were same class at Dexter.
He was in Map of the World, is that right?
Yep, he was in Map of the World. He was in the Faith Healers. I mean, we were the first band that we were ever in. We were in a band together when we first started out.
Really?
Yeah, called Max. And
what year was that?
1980, 81.
81, okay.
Me and Brian and his younger brother Tim, who's a great musician, Tim Delaney, and a drummer, Brad Salt. and a singer from California named Mike DeMay. He went by Mike Rowden at the time, but you know, they were like a flashbang, you know,
Okay.
dressing up, you know, rock and roll, smash guitars, drummer blew fire,
Where'd you guys used to play?
you know, anywhere that would take us.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was a really, really good band. The singer, Mike, he was from California, and so he hipped us to stuff that didn't come here for years.
Really?
But yeah, we were playing
Like ahead of the time, or just like
way ahead of the time. Way ahead of the time. So like we were playing a song, you know, I'm Insane and Street Legal and these songs from this band, this LA band called Macmeda, and he had a tape from them, and they eventually turned into Rat. So we were playing songs that were like off of the first Rat album from 1984
Oh wow.
and like 1981.
Oh, were you wearing spandex back then, or?
Oh,
was that
yeah,
not- was
I
in vogue?
wasn't quite spandex, but I had on some like things that were kind of
You weren't shopping in the men's section.
right,
All the
exactly,
time?
right. No, there was this place called the Chess King or something like that at Briarwood Mall, and it was the place that was very dimly lit, that had a lot of spiky things and leather things and brightly colored things and, you know, sleeveless shirts that were like half black and half white with like lightning bolt in the middle, and jumpsuits with tons of zippers and, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know it.
And so, when we bought it hook, line, and sinker, man, we just went for,
Yeah.
like, to just be shocking, like for Dexter, and we had Marshall stacks and stuff, and we had
Yeah, you mentioned Dexter before. I got to ask you about that too in a second. But yeah.
yeah, we had like great gear. We had some people from Al Nalli's, Kevin Gillespie, who helped us with a lot of stuff.
That's a
and we
name
were-
I've heard before.
Yeah, and he does video stuff now and special effects, and he's extremely
Really?
yeah. He's a fantastically. You should look him up.
I
He's
will.
a Facebook friend of mine.
Yeah.
Very, very super talented dude, and really super good guy. Yeah, totally
Nice.
legit. Somebody that you could put, you know, on your list of people that, you know, aren't gonna, you know, they're just good.
That's excellent.
Yeah, he's cool.
And I got to ask you, from that
Yeah.
time period, were flash pots a real thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So
We-
you crazy idiots
we-
would get lamps and what? Pull the light bulb out, put gunpowder or whatever in, and
No.
plug them in.
What we did. Oh yeah, we did.
Okay. All right.
So here's what you do.
All right.
Is regular old house fuses, the kind that screw in that got like a light bulb base.
I've seen those. I live in the day of the breaker, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I've
Okay,
had to
well,
replace a
they
couple
would
of those.
screw in, and there was ones that had, you know, and they got the little, you know, fuse that blows in there, and there was some that had a plastic cover. So they had like a metal cover, and then inside there was a plastic window that you could see through.
Okay.
And if you took a Stanley knife, you could cut the plastic window out. So you could cut it out. So then we made, out of plywood, and then we painted them black, and then just got regular old, you know, light fixtures, the porcelain ones with a socket in them, and screwed them to the bottom, and had 4 wide in each thing. And it was cool because we made them so they could double also as a light thing, because they just had a light fixture in them, so you could just buy
Alright.
your garage floodlight, you know, and put them in there, and then, you know, staple some gels over the front, and you were golden. So we took those, and then we had them connected to a box that had switches in them, and all the switches had outlets. So then we just plugged these things in, and so we could, when you switch the switch,
Yep.
it would just go to the fuse, and the fuse would instantly blow, and when the fuse blew, and then you'd fill it with flash powder,
Okay.
which you got at the magic shop. You know, you could buy this
That's
thing.
my next question: is where do you get exploding
Yeah.
powder? Okay.
Yeah,
that makes
at
sense.
the magic shop, and you could get that, and you could get flash paper and stuff, and you know, and I was really into magic when I was a kid, so I knew all about, you know, all of the bad stuff, and it would just make this unreal like cloud of stuff, smoke that wouldn't go away really fast either. So if you did it in a place, the lights would look really cool. That was the main thing, because if you had...
You guys are breathing all that stuff in and everything back then.
Oh, yeah. That's probably why I got a brain tumor, man. Freaking flash pots. But yeah, flash pots were a thing. We smashed stuff. The drummer blew fire. He did the thing with the keros. Oh, yeah, with like lamp oil.
Oh.
Yeah, lamp oil. And what he did, too, was cool. He did like a Van Halen thing, and he had mallets. And he would put them in the lamp oil and then put the lamp oil on the top of the cymbals.
Yeah.
And then he would light the cymbals on fire and then blow fire.
I had a bass player that did that with 151 rum.
Oh, right.
That
figures.
But I mean, what's funny is I get my bands complain when we got to bring lights and a PA to a gig. How am I going to convince them to bring flash pots? Of course, we don't do that anymore. But still,
right.
I got to tell you my $1 million idea that I had.
Okay, here's
right?
your $1 million
So
idea.
speaking, because you said something about flash paper.
Uh-huh.
As I've been carrying this around in my wallet for years now. I'll show you over here. It's my last fuck. It's the last one. It's the last. And I thought, man, what if I made 10 of these in flash powder, and people could be like, when they're just pissed, here's my last, and just blow it up.
And it would go.
You just made me give a fuck. You know?
It's genius.
Yeah, I thought
Here's my
that worked.
last one.
Yeah, that's my last
Right.
one. Are you just
And
going to use it up?
And it would instantly disappear.
Yes.
It's
But the problem is you got to carry it around in your wallet.
It's at least $1,000 idea.
It sounds like a $1 million lawsuit if I get sued on it.
Right. You know, if you take like a regular Fender, like 351, you know, those ones that look like fake tortoise shell.
Yeah.
Those catch on fire.
Oh, we learned that.
And they disappear.
A little
They
brother
don't
and I
like
did that.
melt or anything. They just fire just comes
yeah.
out. I thought, and so I was like, that's going to be sweet. And I went to play, and the second I touched the string broke, and so that sucked. I was like, because the fire just
of
did
course it
something
did.
when it was under tension, it just snapped. So that ruined. That was going to be really cool.
So we've gone through a little bit of Allen Alleys in the 70s.
Right.
And then we did 81. We did with what was the name of that band?
That was called Max.
Max. Okay, that's right. All right. And
I
then,
have pictures, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have to send them over. I'll edit them into the video.
Oh yeah.
How about moving onward then? So what happened after that?
I had an all-original trio called True Story with just a absolutely just incredible great drummer.
Were you playing a lead guitar? At the time
I was
too, or
playing just guitar and singing. It was just a trio.
Okay.
And it was me, a bass player, and a drummer. And we were outlandish, and we dressed wild.
Of course.
And,
what year was this? This was
in the early 80s.
Still early 80s? Okay.
Still early 80s. And I would dress up like a harem girl, and I had short hair at the time, and it was almost white. And I would do it with pastels and have like light makeup on it. Had a pink two-piece harem girl bell-bottom thing with gold lame embroidery on it. I was skinny at the time and stuff, you know. And the bass player would wear nothing but. And this was just for special gigs, nothing but a loincloth that was made out of actual gorilla fur that was outlawed. My aunt had it, my grandma's aunt had it, and it was from the early 1900s. And it was just this ratty scrap of gorilla skin fur, and he wore that and nothing else.
Yeah. Ted, did you see it one of the shows?
Right. But he was like a good old farm boy, and he was like, a dude was. He was serious. He could, break you in two. And we would stop at Kentucky Fried Chicken. He had short hair, and he'd rub his body with oil and like a charcoal briquette, so he was like filthy and dirty looking. And then he would stop at Kentucky Fried Chicken. We'd get a Pepsi or Coke or whatever it was, and one of those coleslaws. And he would take the Pepsi and get his hair pretty wet with Pepsi, and then scruff it all up, because the Pepsi, once it dries, it got the sugar in, so it's like wicked gray hairspray. So his hair would be completely just messed up. And then he would take the coleslaw and stick the coleslaw down into it, and so it would all be stuck in, because it was little teeny white pieces, it's got the small fine grain coleslaw. So then when we'd get up there, I would be on stage first, and he would come creeping up from the side, and he would come up like he was some, a caveman. So he's like, ooh, and he looks at the audience, whoa, and I'd be like, come on, and he'd be like, ooh, and he'd see me, and he'd come up and he'd grab the bass, and ooh, he would
So that's what people did before the internet.
He would, right, exactly. So then when he would do the thing, though, he'd be at one thing, and he'd be then he would shake it off and sort of go through like some, weird, incredible Hulk metamorphosis and suddenly be like a rock and roll. And he would do this thing and he would do a Gene Simmons, oh yeah, and do like this one, and then he'd shake his head. And then the coleslaw would come out, and it would catch the lights because it was all white.
Of course, yeah.
And so this stuff would fly off of his head
Oh,
and go all over the place. And so he'd be like, oh, like King Kong or something.
What a wild time.
And then we'd rock.
That's amazing.
We'd rock with the people, and we'd play like real stupid little 3-chord, like super slow, like sentimental ballads and stuff. People would be like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear.
It's all good.
But that was other people that would say that. I would never say that.
Well, okay, so what about present time? So I know we're eventually gonna start talking about the record. How about we talk about it now? So
okay,
what
then I moved to California
Yeah.
quickly. I had read Stratocaster, Floyd Rose. I made weird charts about how Floyd Rose's worked. Because like the G string goes down at the same rate as the low E, the B string goes down half as fast. So if you want to end up with this, you could start here and go, and this will go, and this will go.
Oh, fascinating.
So you could play chords and stuff with it, or you could do, and then dump that and play whole, way apart melodies, and both those notes would stay right in tune. Because the G and the low E go down at the same rate.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I had these like rate of descent charts, this string versus that string versus that string. So I was really into Floyd Rose and into the whole, two-handed thing.
You said a red. Was it like a cherry, like a wine red, or a Fiesta red, or
Krylon,
Oh, okay.
Cardinal red.
I want to get my
spray
hands on a
painted.
Fiesta
It was a
red.
68 rosewood fingerboard with huge frets.
Of course.
And an old. For a minute in the 70s, Gibson potted their humbuckers in epoxy.
Okay.
And I had an epoxy humbucker that I spray painted white because I didn't like the silver in the pick guard.
Yeah.
So it had a humbucker in the bridge and the 2 single coils. And that guitar was great. So I went there and
So this was 86, by the way. Sorry, this year in Hollywood. Okay, sorry.
86, went out there, ended up working at A&M Records for 5 years.
What'd you do at A&M?
I worked in the mailroom.
Okay.
First, I worked in the ad merch warehouse, and then the ad merch warehouse got moved to Indianapolis, and so me and another guy, Russell Chappett, we were the warehouse guys.
Okay.
And A&M was just a tremendous place. They didn't just go, oh, the warehouse is closing, too bad for those guys, and then we were gone. They wanted to take care of us, and so we both got jobs in the mailroom, and he got a job as a driver. And he would, because we had a A&M West that was a small office that had some people in sales and some other things that was in Santa Monica or somewhere out there. Mm-hmm. And he took all the mail that came to the main place out to them and went to all the other accounts and stuff that we serviced. And so I worked in the mailroom there for 5 years, but I got to meet all of my heroes.
Cool.
That came and recorded there. I saw, Aerosmith every day for 5 weeks. I saw Metallica every day there for 6 weeks. I saw Kiss there. Amy Grant, the Neville Brothers, Soundgarden was there. Janet Jackson was there. Sting was there.
Crazy.
And all these just fantastic people. And you got to kind of see how the sort of the business worked, and some just some famous recording people, Shelley Yakus was there at the time. And,
that's fantastic.
yeah, so it was very cool to be around that, to be in studio and watch how things worked and how they didn't work and that whole thing. Plus, I was playing out there all the time and had a band and we rocked for the people,
We'll have to do some more stories sometime soon because I want to talk about what your project now.
Well, the new project now.
So let's put it this way.
It's just this.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where it's weird, Bert, because it started out, and I was just gonna do. I play everything. I play guitar and bass and drums and French horn and a little bit of
French
everything.
horn, 2-barrel, or was it 2-valve or? single valve?
It's well, it's 4 really. A double
Four, okay.
horn's got a thumb and 3. So I didn't really know what I was going to do, if I was going to do a solo, just acoustic record. But like I was saying, I'm not much of an acoustic guitar player. I mean, there's like Leo Kotke's and guys that can
love
finger
Leo
pick and play.
Kotke.
You know what I'm saying? It can play like acoustic guitar and came up on it and stuff. And I came up on, rock and roll. I like riffs. I like playing to drums. And so playing guitar, just acoustic by yourself, it's a different thing. And I play with a real light touch left-handed, and I like a lot of fluttery stuff, and it just doesn't translate on an acoustic guitar. A lot of legato stuff, and I liked bending strings a lot and, really stretching stuff. And again, it doesn't translate to acoustic guitar. The right-hand touch is much lighter on an electric guitar. You don't sit there and drive to 2 and 4 on electric because it just sounds dumb. The drums are doing that, and so your right hand technique is all different. But I've always been a songwriter more than a guitar player, hopefully. I've never really wanted to be like the guy that, goes and plays and there's 15, guitar players sitting like we are like this.
Like I do from time to time.
Right, and just look at, I could do that, And I never really wanted to be like that guy. And I just wanted to play songs. I came up like loving Elvis and Johnny Cash and Peter, Paul and Mary and Phil Oakes and Tom Lehrer, and Frigid Pink was like the first rock band that I loved. They had a House of the Rising Sun. I was just like, I heard that guitar sound, I was like, wow. And when I was like 7 years old, I came to Whitmore Lake High School, and my mom wasn't going to let me go, and I wanted to go with the neighbor guys because they were like 16, and they were like, oh, let's go. And I was like, my mom's like, no, and so I cried, and the next door neighbor's mom said, oh, just let him go, Mary. So they took me, and then they got high, and they forgot me, and then they had to come back and get me once they got home and remembered that they didn't have me. So the acoustic guitar, as far as like this record, I thought that I was just gonna, be doing that, and then I started playing it more and more, and like I was telling you, and I thought, well, I'll just play all the instruments, and I'll do it like that. And so, a few months before I was going to record, I started playing the drums more and just going through and playing the songs how I thought they were going to go. I don't think I have the discipline to find like a verse beat and a chorus beat, because I always want to like play right to what's going on and stuff. And the other thing is that the hi-hat is its own whole separate instrument, and there's especially with slow songs, and I have a lot of slow, sad songs, that the delicate of the psst on the hi-hat and how to get that touch that's just right, and how to do brushes, and to stir the snare,
Stir the soup, yeah.
Yeah, and to stir and to get that touch, and how you don't play the cymbal too loud. And it was the touch thing. I could get the rhythm, I think, pretty close. And I was listening to like that Tom Petty Wildflowers album, and I was just like, there's no way I'm going to be able to play with that level of sensitivity for 4.5 minutes. And so I was talking to Dave Roof at Rooftop Recording up there in Grand Blanc, and I've known him for a long time. We worked together at Herb David's in the 90s, and so I had worked with a couple people on songs for the Michigan Resistance.
That's right, yeah.
And so I had worked with them, and a friend of mine, Dave Solo, who I had met at a songwriting workshop, that was Jazz Obrecht.
I know Jazz.
Yeah, guitar player, editor guy. This is like almost 4 years ago, he put a thing in Craigslist, songwriters workshop, and it was the first one that he was going to do just to see what would happen. And I was like, I know that guy because he started being the editor of Guitar Player about when I started playing guitar. And so I went there and ended up going there until he stopped doing it. I went to, every Sunday for 3 years and hung out. And so I met this guy, Dave Solo, there. Dave Solo played on this Resistance thing, had some great songs. I helped him in the studio. And this other guy, Michael Snyder Barker, I helped him put his record together.
I know Mike.
Yeah. And
Mickey, right? He goes by Mickey? Yeah, I think it's somebody. Yeah, I know. This is my friend on Facebook.
He could. It could be. You know,
It could be anybody.
Yeah. You know, people do weird stuff in their own time. I don't know. And he's a really great guy.
Oh, absolutely.
A real. He really tries to help local musicians.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a really, really helpful person to me. But Dave Solo, anyways, he said to me several months back, he said, hey, I'm going to want to record a record in the spring, summer of 18. If you will produce it for me, I will pay for you to make a record at the studio. And so I was like, yeah. And through working with Dave Roof, we have it's hard to explain. It's almost like I start to say something and move my hands a certain way when we're sitting at the board, and he will already sort of know what I'm doing or what I'm thinking, and he has just such a tremendous facility with Pro Tools that in the time you can think about what you want to have happen, he can just make it.
Yes.
He can make it happen.
We did Cindy Lou's newest EP there. We finished it like Christmas Eve or maybe the 23rd, and we must have spent probably 8 or 9 hours just doing the bed tracks. And we only had like 6 songs or something like that, I think. But we had to get it right. We wanted to do all of us there, and then I did the solos separate, and then I came back for the mixing session. And the thing is, I have very limited patience for this stuff. I don't like sitting still. In fact, we've been sitting still this long. You're a fascinating person. That's how I've been able to sit still this long.
I'm sorry.
No, you're great. It's because I love your stories. But like something about like if I play the guitar and okay, we got it, I'm done. I want to leave. But I have to be there for this thing. But he's so patient and it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm really glad there's an adult in the room. Because I'm just like bouncing out the walls, like I'm ready to go, and I Cindy and John are like fascinated with the mixing thing, and Dave's just so patient.
Yeah,
and that's a skill level I don't have.
Yeah, I love that. I love the whole studio thing. I love the minutia.
Oh, that place is a temple, man. I walk in there and I'm inspired to play.
Yeah.
But
I love the nerding out to that stuff.
Yeah.
And so doing the Michael Snyder Barker record in particular, he played a whole bunch of instruments on it, and he just was killer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he played like stuff like Santana. He played stuff like Brian Setzer.
Nice.
He played, stuff like Keith Richards. He played just great, and he was, he could really play all kinds of just everything. He played bass and he played organ and keyboards on stuff, and he sang great harmony. And so when I was like, okay, he's gonna probably have to do stuff on here, and he played great bass on some stuff just a couple nights ago. And when I played with Don, we had some stuff Dave and I had sketched out, like I was telling you earlier. He had made these custom tempo tracks and stuff to things that I had recorded on these custom click things, and then when Don got there, I was just like, I just want to play with that guy.
Yeah. He serves the song.
And so we just ditched out on that stuff, and he watched me through the window. I went out in the studio, and while he was deciding, what sticks am I going to use, and what brushes am I going to use, what cymbals am I going to use, which one of my awesome boutique snares am I going to use, and how tight is the snare going to be, am I going to put a moon gel on it or not? And he's just
yeah. Oh yeah. He's going to hate the fact that we're praising him so much.
Well, he's just going to have to.
He's a humble guy.
And he's just going to have to deal with that. Because I'm very particular about drummers.
Oh yeah.
And there was something about playing with them live, hearing them in the phones and watching them through the glass and playing, and I could put the accent points with the guitar and hold my arm up and move it over here like ride cymbal or this and that, and we just had this way of communicating through the glass and through the headphones that it just felt like rock and roll, and it felt like music to me, you know. And I haven't like felt like gotten like adrenaline off like that in a long time.
That's great.
You know.
How close are you to being done with it so far? Just, what stage are you in?
Oh, it's still
Still very beginning.
Well, I would think so.
Okay.
Maybe a quarter of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe 30%.
You always feels like you're further behind the 8 ball than you are. Then all of a sudden you're mixing something like, whoa.
Well, yeah, and we're I think that as we're going along, we're really getting sounds as we're going along. We're not looking at it as like, oh, let's fix this later and that kind of thing. We're trying to get it to how it is. And what helps is that I've got a studio at my house, so I can do guitars and vocals at my house. Because the vocal is probably the thing that I'm the most insecure. It's probably not the right word. Because I'm pretty secure in the fact that I'm not really that great.
Yeah.
Really, it's
Manage expectations.
Some people can sing anything and their voice just is beautiful, and they just have this tone and this. There's just singers are singers, and that I can do what I can do right now is just it's because I've practiced a lot and I've sung a lot, and it's taken me a long time to get comfortable with singing how I sing, because there's a couple. And this is what's kind of where I'm at with this record, is that there's a way that I will sing, and if I'm thinking of it like, oh, a singer, and I'll go for these, like, the right tone and the right pronunciation and all this kind of thing, and be really detailed and work on my vibrato and get everything nuanced and all that. And I listen back to it and I think, oh, that sounds really nice, but I'm not sure that sounds like me. And then if I just go at the sounding like me, I'm not sure that sounds nice, because there's like when people, you hear them and you see them and they're making like a singing sound.
Yeah.
And you're like, that doesn't sound at all like the dude I was just talking to like 2 seconds ago.
I know that.
And women, I think, have an even harder time now because there's a way that female singers sing like now, like modern, that's really like there's a certain like Amy Winehouse, Adele sort of thing that's happened, and so I think female singers even are afforded less latitude than guys, and probably the same and with their looks too.
I think a lot of that has to do, and I've noticed this trend too. Autotune has come along and changed things.
Yeah.
I feel like autotune has its own sort of aspect to it that, for the most part, some people can hear or can't hear depending on who you're talking to. But I feel like that timbre, whatever timbre or characteristic it destroys in the voice, people hear those records and then begin to try to emulate that. Because when you came up listening to stuff like Zeppelin or whatever, and you're used to that hissing tape sound,
right?
And the way that the especially in vinyl records where the bass was different than an MP3. Whereas me growing up in the time of MP3, when I hear something that's super compressed, I think that's it, that's finished, right? Someone sent me a WAV file just last week, a WAV file of one of my songs along with the MP3, and I'll click the MP3 first. Okay, there it is. Now I'll check out the WAV file, and I was like, how am I hearing a difference? Like, and the thing is, I'm not saying it sounded better. I'm saying there was a difference.
Oh yeah.
So I think since autotune's become a thing now, people begin to try to, and even when I record harmonies, I want them to sound like that country record,
right?
Or whatever, where the harmonies are spot on and perfect.
Sugarland or something.
Exactly. So I'll dump my background vocals and I use Melodyne.
Right.
And it just because that's a home demo thing.
Right.
On a record, everyone's going to be singing together anyway, and we practice that for hours and hours and hours and anyway. But hey, speaking of playing, you got this beautiful LGO in front of you. Would you mind taking us out with a song or playing
Sure,
something?
what do you want?
Whatever you.
Anything. Yeah, play along with me. Let's play that water song. Here, let me take this shirt off then. Then it'll look like, something happened.
Yeah,
You
right.
can edit it together and it'll look like, oh man, what happened in there?
Yeah.
If you're going to do more of these too, I think that you're not going to do any more here. But
Yeah.
this would be better if there was like a picture of like, Bozo the Clown or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Right, so something to people to focus their eyes on.
Yeah.
Instead of like an old guy. They always would say, well, you're not expected to make any money on the music now, because things are different, man. It's a whole different paradigm. Like it'll be some young guy, and he'll say, you gotta make money like on merch, like selling T-shirts and stuff. And I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, oh yeah, dude. And I was like, look, if I want to make money selling a T-shirt, I'm gonna like make a rainbow unicorn and a little kitty. I'm not gonna put a 55-year-old man on a T-shirt and hope to sell those.
Unless it's a picture of you with like Tide detergent around your mouth that says Tide Pod challenging and champion, and you should have like a tally mark. It should be like 3, or like 3, and then like a half. I would buy that. just a suggestion. I'll take 10% of whatever you make off that idea.
You know how many you'd end up sitting on. You'd end up going to your grave, man. They could bury you in that shit. Okay, so
let's see if we can do this again. Let's try.
Okay, let's start out again. This is the amazing Bert Franco here.
Yeah, we'll see how well.
Or do you go by some different name these days?
Oh, depends on who's asking.
Okay, because you're always somebody different.
That's right.
This is Bert over here on the guitar, and this song's called One Water. Oh, let me start again.
Okay.
This is Bert over here.
I can just edit it together.
Oh yeah.
I can edit stuff out.
Yeah. I know how it works. I think I do. This is Bert on the guitar here, and we're gonna play through a song "One Water." It's a tribute to the people of Flint, Michigan. And it goes like this. You look cool.
That's the goal.
Oh yeah. Now we belong to the sea, you and me, and we'll fall one and all equally, like a river, like the rain. Like our tears that we'll cry to explain, we'll fall one and all to the sea. To one world, to one mother, to one life, like no other. We're one son, we're one daughter. We're one love and one water. We're one water. As our days float on by, you and I will fall one and all. The shore where it feels like we've been here before, like a wave, we will all say goodbye to one world, to one mother, to one life, like no other. We're one son. We're one daughter, we're one love, and one water. We're one water.
much for doing this. You're a pal.
Bert.
We'll do this again after the record comes out.
Yes, sir. This is great. Sorry for giving you the grand tour, but I'm old.